The chamber of the Galactic Council was built to intimidate. Walls of obsidian glass rose hundreds of feet, etched with glowing glyphs that shifted like constellations. The air vibrated faintly from the hum of alien machinery buried beneath the floor. Delegates of 24 species sat in crescent rows, their eyes, compound, slitted, or spectral, fixed upon a single figure at the chamber center. Ambassador Elias Kale stood alone on the obsidian floor. He wore no armor, no insignia of rank, only the formal dark suit of a united Terran coalition. His reflection stretched beneath him like a shadow pinned by the weight of the Council's judgment. Opposite him, towering above the assembly, Sovereign Valak unfolded his massive frame. The alien's armor gleamed with a dull metallic sheen, each plate grown from living crystal. His 4 eyes glowed faint amber, unblinking, fixed on a human diplomat with the predatory calm of a creature certain of its dominance. When he spoke, the sound was low and resonant, carried by translation drones into every ear. Humanity will kneel. Your species has expanded beyond its place, built colonies where it was not invited, wielded weapons it has not earned. You will disband your fleets, surrender your colonies, and submit to the Dominion's protection. Refuse, and you will not exist a century hence. No one moved. The words rippled across the chamber like a seismic wave. Other alien delegates exchanged glances, some satisfied, others wary. The humans were young in galactic reckoning, bold but fragile. Most had expected submission. Kale did not answer immediately. He let the silence grow heavy, let the sovereign's ultimatum linger in the air like smoke. His dark eyes swept the chamber once, noting every face: avian Eldri, insectoid Kythe, amphibian Marist. Some looked eager for humanity's submission, others quietly sympathetic but unwilling to intervene. Humanity stood alone. At last Kale stepped forward, his voice calm but carrying across the room. Sovereign Valak, you speak of protection, yet your demand reeks of conquest. You cloak subjugation in the language of guardianship. You expect us to trade freedom for survival, dignity for chains. Valak tilted his massive head. You misinterpret necessity as conquest. Weak species flourish only under the hand of the strong. Those who resist are culled. It is not cruelty, it is order. A murmur of agreement rippled through several delegations. The Dominion was ancient, its rule vast. To them, this was routine. Kale drew a measured breath. Every word mattered. Then you mistake us for a people who fear death. We do not. What we fear is servitude, and humanity will never accept your chains. The word struck the chamber like a spark against dry tinder. Whispers flared, some incredulous, others alarmed. To openly defy the Dominion was rare, suicidal even. Valak's eyes narrowed, amber light burning brighter. You believe your young fleets, your fragile colonies, can defy the will of the Dominion? Your defiance is arrogance. You will condemn billions to annihilation. Kale's gaze did not waver. Perhaps, but better annihilation than slavery. Our history has been carved from resistance, against tyrants, against empires, against fate itself. If you wish to extinguish humanity, you will find we do not go quietly. We will fight until nothing remains but the memory that we chose freedom. The sovereign leaned forward, enormous frame eclipsing the human. His voice dropped, rumbling with restrained fury. Then war is what you choose. Kale did not flinch. He let the words hang, then answered with deliberate precision. No, sovereign, war is what you demanded. We merely accept. The council chamber erupted. Some delegates shouted protests. Others hissed in fear. A few murmured approval at the human's audacity. The great glyphs on the walls pulsed brighter, as if the chamber itself recorded the moment history turned. One of the council moderators, a serpentine cerulean, coiled forward, scales glinting. Ambassador Kale, do you understand what this declaration means? The Dominion's fleets outnumber yours 100 to 1. Kale turned toward the moderator, his expression grave but steady. I understand perfectly. Humanity has survived worse odds before. We will again. Valak straightened to his full height, towering like a living mountain. His voice thundered across the chamber. So be it. The Dominion shall scour your worlds clean. Let every race here bear witness. Humanity has sealed its fate. Kale's reply came soft but sharp as a blade. Then let them also bear witness that humanity bowed to no master. Remember these words when the fire spreads across the stars. For a heartbeat the chamber was still. Then the sovereign turned, crystal armor glinting like molten stone, and strode from the hall. His retinue followed, the echoes of their footsteps reverberating like drumbeats of war. The council descended into chaos. Some calling for sanctions, others urging mediation, many already retreating to the safety of neutrality. Yet amid the uproar, Elias Kale stood unmoving, as though rooted to the obsidian floor. He felt the weight of what had been done. Billions of lives had just been thrust onto the scale. The path chosen would not be forgiven, nor easily endured. Still, his face betrayed nothing. The Dominion expected fear. What they saw instead was resolve. An elderly delegate, slender and feathered, leaned toward him, voice low and wary. You are either the bravest or the most foolish man I have ever seen. Kale allowed himself the faintest of smiles. Perhaps both. But understand this. Humanity has been underestimated before. Those who made that mistake did not last. The elderly studied him for a long moment, then gave a slow nod, retreating into the murmuring assembly. Kale turned his eyes upward. The glyphs above still shifted, constellations forming and dissolving. In their cold light he saw not doom but clarity. Humanity had crossed a line that could never be undone. There would be blood, loss, sacrifice beyond measure. Yet there was also purpose. For the first time, the galaxy would know exactly what it meant to face humans who refused to kneel. As he left the chamber, his footsteps echoed steady and deliberate. The war had not yet begun, but in that moment, Elias Kale knew it had already been won in spirit. Humanity might burn, but it would burn free. The great halls of New Geneva had never felt so heavy. The air inside the United Terran Coalition's assembly buzzed with urgency, tension radiating off every delegate. Screens along the walls streamed live feeds, orbital shipyards lit by welding arcs, factories repurposed for weapons production, crowds filling the plazas outside demanding action. Humanity had chosen its path, and there was no turning back. Ambassador Elias Kale entered the chamber to a storm of voices. Some hailed him as the man who had given Earth dignity. Others cursed him for condemning billions. He bore both with the same composure he had worn before the sovereign. President Arden Voss, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, struck her gavel once. Silence rippled across the hall. Ambassador Kale, she said, voice measured, the Dominion has issued its response. Their fleets are mobilizing. You have made the Council's decision irreversible. Now we must make certain humanity does not stand divided. Kale met her gaze. Division is death. Unity is survival. That much, at least, is clear. General Rourke, commander of the Terran Defense Fleet, leaned forward, knuckles tight against the table. Our fleet is a fraction of theirs. We've got 6 operational carrier groups, 2 more under construction. The Dominion will bring 50 before the month is out. We'll need every trick, every ounce of ingenuity. If we're to last long enough to matter, a senator from the Pacific Coalition cut in, voice sharp. And what of our colonies? Do we abandon them? Proxima, Kepler, Cygni, they're exposed. We can't defend everything. Kale raised a hand, steadying the growing clamor. We choose what protect, not only by strategy, but by message. The Dominion expects us to panic, to scatter. Instead, we hold the line at Proxima. If we can bloody them there, even once, the galaxy will see that humanity fights with teeth. Murmurs swept the chamber. Many balked at the thought of sacrificing colonies. But Kale's words carried weight. The Dominion had to be challenged, visibly, unmistakably. President Voss's gavel struck again. Then it is decided. Mobilization begins immediately. The first fleet departs within weeks. The shipyards above Earth burned with light. Thousands of drones swarmed across skeletal hulls, sealing armor plates, mounting rail cannons, fueling drives. Civilian freighters were gutted and reforged into gunships. Luxury liners became troop transports. Humanity had no choice but to forge weapons from whatever it had. In orbit, General Rourke guided Cale through the flagship Resolute. Its corridors still smelled of fresh metal and lubricant. Crews hustled past, faces taut with exhaustion, but alive with purpose. "She's not the largest ship in the galaxy," Rourke said, patting the bulkhead, "but she's ours. Every deckhand here knows why we fight. That's worth more than another Dominion dreadnought." Cale studied the crew as they worked. Men and women from across Earth, Martian-born engineers, lunar miners hardened by vacuum, colonists who had never set foot on the home world. Unity born from necessity, not idealism. "Will it be enough?" Cale asked quietly. Rourke's jaw tightened. "It has to be. Down on Earth, propaganda posters flooded cities. We do not kneel." Recruitment lines stretched across plazas. Families sent sons and daughters into orbit with tears and pride intermingled. Factories ran without pause, the thrum of production echoing like a heartbeat of defiance. But the Dominion had not been idle. Reports flowed in, raiding parties harassing trade lanes, cyber-sabotage attempts crippling communication grids, whispers of agents stirring unrest. Humanity's first war in the stars had already begun, unseen and relentless. One night in New Geneva, Cale met with Admiral Tessa Calder in a secure chamber beneath the assembly. A tactical display hovered between them, red markers representing Dominion fleets crawling across star charts. "They're not waiting for ceremony," Calder said. "Skirmishes already hit the Cygni route. Civilian transports lost. Panic is spreading in the outer colonies." Cale's eyes narrowed. "That's what they want. Break morale before the first battle. Make the people beg for surrender." "And if morale does break," she asked, "then we remind them why we fight." Cale replied. His tone was steel. "Fear is a weapon, but so is hope. One victory. That's all it takes to show them we can resist." Calder studied him, measuring the weight in his voice. "You believe that?" Cale leaned closer to the map, eyes fixed on the red swarm around Proxima. "I have to." Weeks blurred. Fleets assembled. Colonies braced for siege. Humanity's leaders debated and wrangled. But the machinery of war did not stop. On the day of departure, Cale stood on the command deck of Resolute. Beyond the viewing port stretched the assembled fleet. Carriers, frigates, transports, fighters packed tight in formation. Engines glowed like a constellation of blue suns. The calm crackled with President Voss's voice, broadcast across every vessel. "Citizens of Earth and the colonies, today we send our first fleet not as conquerors, not as subjects, but as free people who will not yield. To the Dominion, we say this: you may bring your legions, your dreadnoughts, your centuries of power. We bring only ourselves, and that will be enough." Cheers erupted across the channels. Some wept, others roared. Cale felt the weight of it settle inside him. It was not triumph, but resolve. General Rourke turned from the display. "Ambassador, once we cross into Proxima, there's no retreat." Cale met his gaze. "Then we make sure the galaxy remembers Proxima, whatever the cost." The order came. Engines flared. One by one, the ship slipped into the fold stream, streaking toward the edge of human space, into the teeth of the Dominion. As the stars stretched into rivers of light, Cale stood silent, hands clasped behind his back. He thought of Earth below, of cities bright with hope and fear. He thought of the sovereign's amber eyes, of the cold certainty in his voice. The Dominion believed humanity would break. They would soon learn otherwise. The fleet vanished into the void, carrying with it the steel and flame of a species that had chosen freedom over survival. The fleet emerged from fold space above Proxima Centauri. The transition rippled across every hull, shields shivering from the strain. Silence followed, silence before war. Ambassador Elias Cale stood on the bridge of the Resolute, watching the system unfurl on the main display. The star burned red, its glow catching on the orbital rings of humanity's outpost, Proxima Station. The station hung wounded, panels scorched from raids, defense turret scarred but still intact. Below it, the colony world Proxima shimmered with a faint glitter of its domes, fragile arcs of glass and steel protecting 500,000 settlers. General Rourke's voice broke the silence. Scans confirmed Dominion fleet inbound. 20 warships, 3 carriers, 2 dreadnoughts. They'll be on us in minutes. The bridge crew stiffened. Humanity's fleet numbered 12 carriers, but most were smaller than Dominion standards. Frigates and repurposed freighters filled the gaps. The numbers weren't hopeless, but they leaned heavy against them. Kale's eyes fixed on the display. They expect us to scatter, to defend the colony piecemeal. We hold formation, we fight as one. Let them believe we're weaker, then show them otherwise. Rourke gave a grim nod. You heard him. Lock battle groups. Keep tight. The fleet moved into position. Ships slid into a wedge formation with Resolute at its spear. Fighters spilled from hangars, a swarm of silver darts clustering around their carriers. Then the Dominion arrived. They tore from fold space like jagged blades, black holes burning with violet engines. Their dreadnoughts loomed like moving fortresses, bristling with plasma cannons. Comms filled with their broadcasts, a chorus of alien voices repeating one demand: surrender or be erased. No reply came. Humanity's silence was answer enough. Enemy weapons hot, reported the tactical officer. Rourke's hand cut the air. Fire. The void erupted. Rail cannons thundered, slinging tungsten slugs at near-light velocity. Missiles flared, streaking across the black. Dominion plasma answered, ribbons of fire searing past shields, cracking into armor. The battlefield became a storm of light and death. Kale gripped the rail before him, steady against a tremor of impacts. They test us, show them what it costs. Fighters screamed to the crossfire, weaving between plasma bursts. Human pilots pushed their craft beyond limits, diving into blind spots, launching torpedoes point blank. One frigate, Vanguard, rammed a Dominion cruiser broadside, detonating its core in a blinding bloom. Cheers rose on the bridge, cut short as a Dominion beam split another carrier in half. Thousands vanished in silence. Kale's jaw tightened. No victory without blood. The enemy pressed harder, dreadnoughts pushing forward, their plasma lances carving sways through the line. Yet the humans did not break. Every loss was answered with ruthless defiance. Mines hidden in civilian freighters detonated among Dominion formations, shredding escorts. Kamikaze drones slammed into carrier bays, tearing fighters apart before they launched. Still, the numbers bled them. Ship by ship, the Terran fleet faltered. Shields at 30%. The tactical officer barked. Hull breaches on decks 6 and 9. Kale leaned to Rourke. They believe we fight to survive. They don't yet understand. We fight to wound them. Rourke's brow furrowed. Explain. Kale pointed at the tactical map, where Dominion dreadnoughts push toward Proxima Station. They think the station is our weakness. Make it our bait. Pull them in. Rourke stared, then gave a sharp nod. Orders rippled across the fleet. Carriers fell back in apparent retreat, leaving the station seemingly exposed. Dominion ships surged forward, sensing collapse. The trap snapped. Hidden batteries on the station roared to life, coordinated with the fleet's sudden counterstrike. Rail slugs hammered the lead dreadnought, tearing through its weakened flank. Human fighters swarmed like hornets, unleashing their payloads in perfect synchronization. The dreadnought shuddered, then split apart, a fractured Titan burning in silence. For the first time, the Dominion hesitated. On the Resolute, cheers broke loose, unrestrained, raw. Kale allowed himself a single breath of relief. The galaxy was watching, through spies, through distant channels. This moment mattered. Humanity had drawn blood, but the Dominion's reply came swift. Their second dreadnought opened fire on the station itself. Plasma torrents raked across its hull, shredding defenses, collapsing habitat domes. 500,000 lives flickered in an instant. The bridge fell silent. The display showed Proxima B's colony domes collapsing, cities erupting into flame. Rourke's voice was hoarse. They're slaughtering civilians. Kale's chest fell hollow, yet his voice carried iron. And they believe that will break us. They're wrong. The Dominion ships pulled back into formation, regrouping after their losses. Humanity had hurt them, but the cost was staggering. The fleet floated in scars and fire, hulls cracked, engines sputtering. Survivors counted losses in tens of thousands. Kale stepped forward, speaking not only to the bridge but to every ship on comms. Today the Dominion believed we would run. Instead, we stood. They destroyed Proxima's colony, but not its spirit. They bled us, but we made them bleed in turn. That is what matters. Remember this moment. They are not gods. They are flesh and steel, and they can be broken. Across the fleet, voices answered. Tired, grief-stricken, but defiant. Pilots whispered oaths. Engineers swore vengeance. Soldiers hardened their resolve. Rourke exhaled, shoulders heavy. We survived the first clash. Barely. Cale looked at the burning wreck of the Dominion dreadnought on the screen. Survival was never the measure. Endurance is. And endurance, sovereign, is what we will give you. He turned away, the weight of the dead pressing down, but his eyes burned with a quiet fire. Proxima was lost. Humanity was not. The first clash was over. The war had only begun. The council chamber on Titan was colder now, not in temperature, but in spirit. The echoes of Proxima's fall still haunted every delegate, every broadcast, every family that had watched domes collapse under Dominion fire. Humanity had won a symbolic strike, yet the cause had carved deep scars. Ambassador Elias Cale stood before the United Terran Assembly once more, his voice carrying the calm edge of a blade. The Dominion seeks not victory in battle alone. They wage war on willpower. They burn Proxima to prove our resistance is futile. If we let despair spread, they succeed without lifting another cannon. General Rourke sat nearby, arms folded, his uniform heavy with fatigue. Our fleet's limp home. We can't fight their dreadnought ship for ship. We need time, weapons they don't expect. Without that, we won't last another campaign. President Arden Voss's gaze swept the chamber. Then we must buy time another way. Diplomacy. The word tasted bitter in the room. Most saw neutrality in the Galactic Council as little more than cowardice. Yet Cale's eyes narrowed with calculation. There are factions within Concordium that fear the Dominion's reach as much as we do, he said. They sit silent, waiting to see if we break. Proxima showed them two truths, that we can bleed the Dominion, and that the Dominion will commit atrocities without hesitation. If we expose both, neutrality becomes untenable. The following weeks blurred with covert meetings. Cale traveled between orbital stations, secret halls carved from ice moons, and chambers humming with alien air. He spoke with elderly elders, whose featherheads bowed in cautious sympathy. He debated with the insectoid Kythe, who clattered their mandibles in skepticism. He listened to the merest, amphibian and calculating, who feared Dominion fleets drifting closer to their worlds. Each encounter played differently, but Cale's message never wavered. He carried with him unfiltered records. Proxima's last transmissions, civilians screaming as plasma fire turned skies into oceans of flame. The footage was raw, undeniable. He set it before them without commentary, letting silence deliver the argument. At one such meeting, the elderly matriarch leaned forward, her voice a whisper of wind. You wish us to intervene against the Dominion? You are children, Elias Cale. Bold but children. Your defiance may inspire, but it also endangers. If we support you, the Dominion turns its gaze upon us. Cale met her avian eyes without flinching. If they succeed in breaking us, do you believe they will stop at humanity? Or will they turn to the next young race that dares to stand tall? If we fall, you are next. The Dominion feeds on silence. Refuse them now, or prepare to kneel later. Her feathers bristled. She did not agree aloud, but she did not dismiss him either. Back on Earth, new prototypes rolled from hidden foundries. Engineers unveiled rail cannons larger than any mounted before, warheads layered with directed EMP pulses. Stealth drones designed for ambush. Humanity could not match the Dominion scale, but it could strike with ingenuity. Every weapon was a gamble, but gambles were their currency now. Rourke inspected the new armaments with wary approval. They won't win us a war, but they might win us time. Cale stood beside him, watching crews fit weapons into carriers. Time is all we need. Every day we survive is another day the Dominion's image cracks. The general glanced at him. You really think words and alliances will turn the tide? Cale's expression did not shift. I think the Dominion fears what they cannot control. Fear spreads faster than plasma fire. The Dominion escalated. Reports arrived of entire colonies glassed. Habitats reduced to husks. Populations erased to ash. Refugees streamed toward Earth, filling transports with stories too horrific to doubt. One night, Cale sat in the war room with President Voss and Admiral Calder, studying maps littered with red markers. "They're not even pretending anymore," Calder said, voice tight. "They're burning worlds just to send a message." Cale's jaw clenched. "Then we send our own. We expose every atrocity, every slaughter, to Concordium, force them to look, make silence complicity." Voss nodded slowly. "And if they still refuse?" Cale's eyes hardened. "Then at least the galaxy will know the truth. Humanity does not kneel, and those who look away will remember they let it happen." The breaking point came weeks later. The Council convened again on Titan, neutrals filling the chamber with uneasy energy. This time, Cale did not stand alone. Behind him hovered whole projections of the Dominion's massacres, raw and unedited. Images of charred colonies, orbital wreckage, and refugees huddled in broken stations filled the chamber. Gasps rippled, followed by hushed voices. Cale's speech was not loud, but each word carried. "You see what they are. Not guardians, not rulers, but executioners. Today, it is humanity. Tomorrow it is you. How long will you sit in silence, pretending their cruelty does not reach your borders?" Sovereign Valak himself appeared by projection, towering and unyielding. His voice rumbled, venom-laced in every syllable. "These are the costs of resistance. Humanity chose death. The Dominion offers order. Interfere and you share their fate." Cale did not look at him. He kept his gaze on the delegates. "You heard him. That is the voice not of peace, but of tyranny. If you will not fight for us, then fight for yourselves." Humanity asks for no chains, only time. The chamber erupted in uproar. Some shouted for neutrality. Others demanded action. Lines were shifting. Seeds had been planted. After the session, Cale walked the obsidian corridors alone. The echo of Valak's threat still lingered in his mind, but so did the image of wavering faces among the neutrals. Admiral Calder joined him quietly. "You may have just painted a target on your back." Cale gave a faint, weary smile. "I painted at the moment I told the Sovereign we would not kneel." They walked in silence, the stars outside the windows burning steady and cold. The war was far from won. Yet Cale felt something shift, small, fragile, but real. For the first time, the Dominion's shadow no longer stretched unbroken. The void above Proxima Centauri burned with wreckage. Shattered hulls drifted, fragments tumbling like broken stars. It was not the first battle here, but it would be the last. On the bridge of the Resolute, Ambassador Elias Cale stood beside General Rourke as alarms shrieked in the distance. The Dominion had come in force. 3 dreadnoughts, a wall of cruisers, carriers vomiting endless waves of fighters. Against them, humanity's fleet looked like a ragged scar. Battered carriers, patched frigates, salvage transports turned into warships. But they held their formation, not out of confidence, but because retreat was no longer possible. Rourke's eyes stayed on the tactical display. "They mean to end us here." Cale's voice was steady. "Then let this be the place history remembers." The Dominion moved first. Plasma lances tore across the void, vaporizing 2 frigates before their crews even had time to scream. The human fleet answered with rail slugs and missile swarms, each volley carving small wounds into the advancing juggernauts. It was not enough. Cale felt every loss like a weight pressing deeper on his chest. He forced himself to remain composed. Fear spread quicker than fire. He could not allow it. Rourke barked orders. Bring forward the prototypes. Deploy stealth wings. From hidden bays, new human weapons launched into the dark. Cloaked drones carrying EMP warheads. Fighters armed with freshly forged Gauss cannons. They streaked into enemy formations, detonating in bursts of electromagnetic fury. For a heartbeat, Dominion shields flickered. "Now!" Rourke shouted. Rail batteries fired in unison. Slugs punched into the exposed flank of a Dominion carrier, ripping through its reactor. The explosion lit the void like a second star. A roar echoed across comms. cheers from every surviving ship. But the Dominion did not falter. Their remaining dreadnoughts surged forward, filling the gap with merciless fire. One human carrier split apart, spilling burning wreckage across the stars. On the bridge, a young officer turned, face pale. "We can't hold, sir." Cale stepped forward, his voice calm but fierce. "Yes, we can. Not because we are stronger, but because we refuse to yield. Tell every ship, our survival is not the measure. Our defiance is." The words carried across channels, searing through grief, through exhaustion. Pilots whispered them back. Soldiers repeated them in bloody corridors. Engineers mouthed them through smoke. Not survival. Defiance. The Dominion dreadnoughts closed in, their cannons trained on Resolute. Cale knew what was coming. Then a transmission cut through the din. The Eldry, their feathered silhouettes sharp against council banners, appeared on every screen. "Human fleet, we answer." Moments later, Eldry cruisers tore from fold space, weapons blazing. Behind them came Kai's swarms of Maris carriers, smaller fleets but enough to fracture Dominion focus. For the first time, humanity was not alone. Cheers surged, raw and ragged, as Allied fire raked across Dominion formations. Rourke's fist slammed the console. They came. Cale allowed himself the faintest smile. They chose dignity. The battle became chaos. Fighters clashed in swarms. Rail slugs ripped through Dominion hulls. Plasma lances cut human ships in half. But for every Terran loss, an Eldry beam tore into a Dominion cruiser. For every Kai ship that fell, human drones swarmed their killer. And still the dreadnoughts advanced. "They won't break," Rourke growled. Cale's eyes fixed on the lead vessel, its hull glowing with molten scars. "Then we break them." A desperate plan took shape. We hit the dreadnought's core with everything left. Sacrifice if we must. Show the galaxy that we will not be erased. Rourke hesitated only a heartbeat before nodding. Orders raced across the fleet. Human ships dove into the heart of the enemy. Some slammed directly into Dominion hulls, detonating warheads point blank. Others formed a wall, shielding the final volley. Cale watched as names winked out on the tactical display. Ships he had walked, crews he had spoken with. Each loss cut deep, but each carried purpose. At last, the combined barrage struck the dreadnought's reactor. The explosion consumed the giant in a roaring inferno, shockwaves scattering its escorts. For the first time, the Dominion line faltered. Silence filled the bridge for a moment, broken only by labored breaths. Then voices on comms began to rise, not in fear, but in fierce, unyielding pride. The Dominion pulled back, not routed, not destroyed, but halted. Their surviving ships withdrew, engines burning into the void. Humanity had not won in numbers, but they had denied the sovereign his victory. Cale stood at the viewing port, watching wreckage drift in the aftermath. "They will call this a stalemate," he said quietly. "But it is more than that. We prove we will not kneel." Rourke exhaled, shoulders heavy with loss. "At what cost?" Cale's gaze did not waver. "The cost of dignity, one we have always paid." Later, Cale returned to the Galactic Council. The chamber was different now. Delegates who once looked at humanity with condescension now studied him with wary respect. The sovereign appeared again by projection, his amber eyes burning with controlled fury. "You have not won," Valak declared. Cale met his gaze, calm and unflinching. "No, but neither have you, and that is the lesson you must carry. Humanity cannot be broken, not by fire, not by fear." The chamber fell into silence. The balance of power had shifted. Humanity remained scarred, bloody, but unbowed. That night, aboard the Resolute, Cale stood alone at the viewport. The stars stretched endless, indifferent. Behind him lay a fleet in ruins, ahead a war still unwon. But between those truths lay something undeniable. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through conquest, but through refusal to submit. He whispered to the dark, not for the galaxy, but for the dead who had carried them this far. "We burn, but we burn free." And the stars bore silent witness.